Hello and welcome to CYC News for the 28th of February 2021 and the 21st of Umshir, 17:37 am. I'm Antonia Janji. In today's headlines, Armenian Prime Minister denounces attempted military coup. The US to release report on Saudi journalist's murder. Russian jets bomb IS positions in Syria desert region. Trump plots his future from sunny Florida links. Questions remain on J&J's COVID-19 vaccine rollout. Brisbane is the preferred bidder for the 2032 Olympic Games. But first to Armenia, where the country's Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has warned of an attempted military coup after armed forces said he and his cabinet must resign. He was later seen marching with supporters in the capital Yerevan. The army earlier said the Prime Minister was no longer able to make reasonable decisions after he sacked a top military commander. Mr. Pashinyan has faced mass protests after losing last year's conflict with Azerbaijan over Nagorno-Karabakh. Nagorno-Karabakh is an enclave internationally recognised as part of Azerbaijan, but which had been controlled by ethnic Armenians since the 1994 truce. During the bloody 6 weeks of fighting late last year, Azerbaijan not only recaptured areas around the enclave, but also took the key town of Shusha inside it. Under the Russian brokered deal that emerged shortly afterwards, Azerbaijan keeps the areas it has captured. Hundreds of Russian peacekeepers are deployed in the disputed area. The US is preparing to release an intelligence report that is widely expected to implicate Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince in the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018. President Biden has read the report and is due to speak to the Saudi king soon. Mr. Biden wants to recalibrate relations with Saudi Arabia, which became closer under President Trump. Khashoggi was brutally killed in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, and the Crown Prince has denied any involvement. Saudi authorities say his death was the result of a rogue operation by a team of agents sent to return him to the kingdom. 5 individuals were given death sentences for the murder by a Saudi court, but these were commuted to 20 years in prison last September. Over to Syria now, where, according to activists, Russian warplanes have carried out dozens of airstrikes on the Islamic State group's positions in the Syrian desert. The jets are supporting an operation by Syrian pro-government forces to secure the road between Homs and Deir al-Zur, according to a monitoring group. IS militants have carried out a string of deadly ambushes and hit-and-run attacks in the region recently. The latest, on Wednesday, reportedly killed 9 soldiers and militiamen. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which monitors the war in Syria via a network of sources, said 3 others had died when a landmine planted by IS exploded in the desert near Al-Mayadeen. On Tuesday, Russian airstrikes killed at least 10 IS militants in Deir al-Zur and eastern Hama province. Opposition TV channel Syria TV also said that Russian jets were attacking IS positions in the Desert Badia region as part of an offensive by troops and militiamen. However, Syrian state media made no mention of the reported operation. Islamic State once controlled 88,000 square kilometres of territory that stretched from western Syria to eastern Iraq and imposed its brutal rule on almost 8 million people. In a South Florida war room, occupied most days by a party of one, a former US President, Donald Trump, is plotting his return. He spends mornings on his nearby golf course, making and taking calls from a golf cart that doubles as his mobile office. The multiple trips to the links in the last few weeks have served to accomplish a long-promised goal, says someone who spent time with him recently. Donald Trump claims he has increased his golf drive by 20 yards. According to multiple people familiar with Trump's current habits, his stated goal, barring impact from ongoing criminal investigations, is to run for president again in 2024. However, his short-term goal includes watching his son Donald Trump Jr., the MAGA base's fervent mouthpiece, barnstorm his way across the country on behalf of Trump's loyalists and supporters for midterms. A person who works with Trump Jr. said, "Once 2022 kicks into high gear, expect Don to be an extremely active presence on the campaign trail." 18 holes later, Mr. Trump leaves his Trump International Golf Club and returns to Mar-a-Lago, where he retreats within his quarters to his own private living space, separate from that of his wife, and ponders 2 main questions. Who is with him and who is against him? In some health news, Johnson & Johnson says that it has 4 million doses of its COVID-19 vaccine ready to ship immediately once it receives emergency use authorization. But as that decision nears, it's unclear when or where those doses will be delivered. During a briefing on Wednesday, White House COVID coordinator Jeff Zients said the J&J vaccine's distribution would be similar to the current allocations process across jurisdictions, pharmacies and community health centres. When asked last week, the White House did not disclose its plans, although an administration official said they have worked closely with the company to formulate a distribution outline. Still, some cities and states are making big plans for how they will administer the single-dose vaccine, many focusing on their most vulnerable communities, and they acknowledge they don't know how many doses to expect. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said, "I think Johnson & Johnson is going to be the difference maker because it's single-dose, easier refrigeration standards. I think this is what will supercharge our effort." But federal officials have also expressed disappointment that fewer doses than expected will be ready. Zients said about 2 million doses will go to states after the vaccine is authorised, and the remaining amount will be allocated to pharmacies and community health centres. And in sport, the International Olympic Committee has named Brisbane as the preferred bidder to host the 2032 Olympic Games. The IOC's Future Host Commission recommended the body enters targeted dialogue with Brisbane bid organisers and the Australian Olympic Committee. Several cities and countries had expressed an interest in hosting the Games, including Indonesia, Budapest, China, Doha and Germany's Ruhr Valley. Australian cities have twice previously hosted an Olympic Games, Melbourne in 1956 and more recently Sydney in 2000. The state of Queensland hosted the 2018 Commonwealth Games, and Brisbane was praised for its high percentage of existing venues, a good master plan, experience in organising major events and its favourable weather. The IOC overhauled its bidding rules in 2019 to reduce costs and make the process easier for cities. There are no official candidate cities campaigning before the vote, as has been the case in the past. The delayed 2020 Olympics will be held in Tokyo, Japan this July, with Paris staging the 2024 Games and Los Angeles hosting the 2028 Olympics. And that's all for CYC News. A reminder that you can watch this news bulletin again throughout the week on YouTube. I'm Antonia Janji from the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia. See you next time.